안녕하십니까.
Morning.
My name is David Caprara. I'm pleased to moderate this morning's session on unification and the post-Cold War era framework. I serve as Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for the Global Peace Foundation and non-resident fellow with Brookings. I would like to recognize, to begin this morning's session, distinguished members of the Korean National Assembly who are here with us today. Could you please stand? Welcome our congressmen and women. Maybe stand. Let's give them a warm round of applause. I think given today's topic in promoting solutions to the Korean crisis in the International Forum for One Korea, it's fitting we're meeting here in the Ronald Reagan International Center, International Trade Center. Ronald Reagan, the president, who said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And when we think of leadership of our Korean National Assembly, we would also like to recognize behind that type of movement in history is certainly civil society and the force of free people yearning for their inalienable God-given rights. So we want to welcome the large contingent of over 40 Action for Korea United leaders who have joined us from the Republic of Korea. When we speak of Korean-led unification, AKU represents the founding forces of a new unified Korea. Please welcome, if you could stand, all our representatives from Korea who have joined today. AKU. This International Forum for One Korea kicked off yesterday. We were honored by Congressman Butterfield and other presentations at Abraham Lincoln's historic cottage where he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation during the American Civil War. We then had a dynamic opening session at the U.S. Senate with expert scholar panels advancing strategies for the International One Korea Global Campaign. We heard from co-conveners, Dr. William Parker, if you could stand, of the East-West Institute, and Dr. J.U., if you could stand, from the One Korea Foundation. Our International President, James Flynn, of the Global Peace Foundation. And our keynote address was given by GPF Chairman Dr. Hunjin Preston Moon, linking the Korean independence movement, the 100th anniversary in March 2019, to the grassroots movement of AKU in this global One Korea campaign being launched here at the Ronald Reagan International Trade Center. Ladies and gentlemen, divided Korea is the last remnant of the Cold War in a world rapidly moving beyond old frameworks of the past toward new alliances for peace and common prosperity in the 21st century. We saw this at hand at this month's APEC and ASEAN summits and President Trump's Asia trip at every turn. Approaches to the Korean Peninsula crisis, such as the six-party talks, have stagnated under the North Korean effect and failed by reverting to old Cold War alignments in the face of an intractable North. This morning's session, then, will examine alternative elements of a new approach highlighting common security interests and new alliances which can alter and avert the catastrophic alternative of war on the Korean Peninsula. This morning's session builds on yesterday's presentations that highlighted unique Northeast Asia economic factors cited by Dr. Lee Jun, who's here from Japan, Dr. Zhebin from Russia, Dr. Zhao from China, and many others. Today we'll also look at potential mediating roles of nations such as Mongolia, India, and Europe, and supporting Korean-led unification and new alliance possibilities for the global campaign for One Korea, fueled at the bottom by AKU and other Track 2 players here today. I'm pleased to welcome our first speaker and dear friend, Dr. Enkhsaikhan, who is chairman of the Blue Banner NGO movement in Mongolia, which has played a key role for mediator of peace between the Koreas and Northeast Asia nations. He is also a highly regarded statesman of Asia, having prior served as Mongolia's ambassador to the United Nations and a leader advancing Track 2 approaches for denuclearization, including the UB process. Ambassador, welcome from your long journey to America from Mongolia's land of blue sky. Thank you.
Due to the fact that I have some problems with my legs, I hope you'll be able to bear with me if I speak from here, not taking the podium. First of all, I would like to thank David for his kind invitation. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this very important forum, as well as to share some of the views that we have with regard to the issues that are being discussed here. By attending this conference, this forum, I believe I'll be able to enrich my own knowledge about this important issue by hearing the views and getting the questions answered and so on and so forth. I have prepared a paper on the issue, which is entitled Mongolia's Approach to the Reunification of Korean People and Possible Contributions to that End. So since we have only 10 minutes to discuss, I guess I'll just focus on the highlights of my paper. I think the original of the paper can be found later on the website. Briefly, Mongolia's relations with the two Koreas. We have to introduce the issue. First, our relations with North Korea, which we consider as a traditional relationship. In modern times, Mongolia maintains with North Korea traditionally friendly relations, which started in 1948 when we were the second country to recognize the DPRK after its establishment. During the Korean War, we provided material assistance to North Korea and accepted many orphan children that returned home later after the end of the war. We still cherish their stay in Mongolia. In the post-Cold War period, at times Mongolia provided food and other assistance to North Korea. Though during the Cold War, both North Korea and Mongolia belonged to the so-called socialist camp, our domestic and foreign policies differed, and we have agreed at that time to disagree on some of the issues of practical implications as well as theoretical issues. A perfect example to this is Juche policy and Mongolia's policy of non-capitalist path of development. Today, our policies also differ on political and socio-economic models of development. This applies to foreign policy as well, including on nuclear security issues. Unlike North Korea, about which everyone knows, Mongolia links its security with promoting non-nuclear policy by declaring itself a single-state nuclear weapon-free zone. As a result of this policy, the 5 nuclear weapons states, that means the P5, including our 2 neighbors, have pledged in 2012 in the form of a jointly signed declaration to respect our non-nuclear weapon status and not to contribute to any act that would violate it. It took Mongolia over 80 meetings of different formats and levels with the representatives of the P5 to come to such an agreement. We know that the P5 are no angels, but they are also no devils. In our view, the keys to successful outcome were mindful of each other's interests and holding talks in a calm atmosphere without headline-grabbing fanfare. Mongolia interprets the P5 joint commitment that I have referred to as addressed not only to Mongolia but to themselves as well. meaning to respect the status and not to involve Mongolia in future possible destabilizing policies similar to missile defense or anti-missile defense systems, including perhaps placing, tracking, homing, intercepting, or other devices on its vast territory. This is our contribution to regional stability, predictability, and confidence building. Some material on the issue you can find at the information table there. The second, our relations with the Republic of Korea, which we consider as relations, mature relations. Again, Mongolia was the first Asian socialist country to establish diplomatic relations with South Korea in the early 1990s. Since then, both countries have rapidly expanded bilateral relations. Today, South Korea is the fourth largest trading partner for Mongolia. During the time of Mongolia's transition to a market economy, South Korea has provided much needed aid and soft loans in many areas, for which we Mongolians are grateful. Our relations have expanded rapidly and matured. Thus, in the economic field, a major contribution that South Korea has made was to accept Mongolian laborers to work in different areas and get first-hand experience of working under market conditions. Today, there are around 30,000 Mongolians that live and work in South Korea and 3,000 South Koreans in Mongolia. If Mongolia is learning from South Korea, North Korean laborers in Mongolia, though not numerous, have the chance to get acquainted with Mongolia's successful transition experience. In short, we say that in North Korea, we see our past, and in South Korea, our future. Now, how we see the reunification of the Korean people. Peaceful reunification is in the interest of the entire Korean nation, the region, as well as well beyond it. However, it cannot be accomplished mechanically or forcefully. Over 6 decades of parallel existence and development have created conditions in both countries, that means in North and South Korea, that cannot be ignored or easily overcome. So there is much talk about ultimate reunification on both sides. In general, in our view, the discussions are not backed up by zeal or conviction. Hence, it seems most realistic at this stage is to focus on or accentuate the positive and try to work on issues of common interest and where there is a chance for progress. North Korea has sacrificed a lot to acquire nuclear weapons, and we know that. Hence, it is highly doubtful that they would abandon it easily. Therefore, to be realistic, one should not allow the nuclear issue, which has its own logic and dynamics, to hold hostage movements in other areas, since the latter can be conducive to creating confidence and expanding areas of common interests that could lead to easing of tensions and reducing mistrust. Now, briefly about our possible role in promoting the goal of Korean reunification. I would like to thank Dr. Hyun Jin Moon and Dr. Lee Joo-in yesterday for expressing hope and confidence in a possible positive role of Mongolia. Despite the present dangerous tensions, I believe that the process towards reconciliation and gradual unification should be pursued. One should not underestimate the role that such processes can play in strengthening the basis of peaceful reunification, however distant it may seem. In this, strategic patience on both sides would be required. It's a long-term process. Hence, discussion of the ideas and principles of such reunification needs to be persistently pursued as being done at this forum. We fully agree that the process needs to be Korean-led, and the main stakeholders can only be Koreans themselves. Other states and stakeholders can and should provide support, mindful of their possible role and comparative advantage. The role of other states, including small states like Mongolia, should not be discounted or underestimated. My country is interested in peace and stability, linking its security and development directly with the developments in Northeast Asia. As Mongolians say, "Dak is calm when the lake is calm." That is the philosophy of Mongolia's active foreign policy. Though not party to the six-party talks, Mongolia tries to play some positive role. Thus, it has facilitated and organized meetings with North Korea and Japan, as well as North Korea and the United States, and expressed readiness to provide some good offices if the parties agree. However, Mongolia also sees its role beyond facilitating holding of bilateral meetings. I see two ways to promote regional trust and confidence by Mongolia. First one, as David has alluded, it's an Ulaanbaatar process, a dialogue. Looking at the larger picture, Mongolia is committed to promoting trust through dialogue. Thus, in 2013, it has proposed to hold a 1.5-track, that is semi-official, inclusive dialogue meetings among the representatives of the states of the region. The goal is to foster regional trust that could promote resolving hard issues through addressing the so-called soft security issues of mutual concern and mutual interest. This semi-official dialogue meeting, known as the Ulaanbaatar Dialogue, is being annually held and provides a venue and a political space for semi-official meetings to discuss the issues of common interest. Dr. Alicia Campe of SAIS, who has participated in many of these meetings, is among us. I'm sure that if she wants, she would be able to add some things. We held 4 dialogue meetings, and thus, for example, in 2015, this meeting specifically considered issues of regional energy challenges. In 2016, promotion of economic cooperation and development of infrastructure connectivity, environmental protection, and so on. This year, the focus of Ulaanbaatar Dialogue was on deepening energy and environmental cooperation among the interested parties. Some specific issues and projects were discussed and considered. The second possible contribution is through the process known as Ulaanbaatar process, NGO-driven process, which was launched a couple of years ago. We're trying to see how we can contribute to eliciting ideas by having the civil society organizations also to come up with their ideas and share their ideas. So, a concluding thought. The above mentioned shows that intergovernmental, 1.5 and 2-track levels, there Mongolia can serve as a bridge between the two Koreas in promoting trust and mutual understanding and sharing its transition experience, of course, provided that the interested parties are willing to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Enkhsaikhan. I would like to acknowledge, if she could stand, our dear friend, and I dare say the top Mongolian scholar and friend of Mongolia in America, who was awarded the Polar Star by the President of Mongolia, Dr. Alicia Campi, President of the Mongolia Society. Alicia, welcome, our good friend. We were pleased that Ambassador talked about Ulaanbaatar dialogue, which has been convened at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. On the one hand, you could say perhaps track 1.5 or even 1.0, but the Ulaanbaatar process is a civil society engaged process, like AKU here today, whose chairman is here, Mr. Intek. So if you could stand up one more time. But I think we can learn from these different models. It gives me great pleasure and honor now to introduce the Honorable Young Kyo So, member of the National Assembly, Congress of the Republic of Korea, from the ruling Minjoo Party, where she serves on the National Defense and Budget Committees. The Honorable So prior served as press secretary during the working level talks for the North-South Korea Summit under the No administration. Honorable So was co-director for the current incumbent President Moon Jae-in's successful campaign and chair of the National Women's Committee. Please welcome National Assemblywoman So.
안녕하십니까? 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. 굿모닝. 굿모닝. 저는 대한민국의 국회의원입니다. 그리고 현재 대한민국의 국방위원회의 유일한 여성위원으로 활동하고 있습니다. 오늘 이 자리에 한반도의 통일을 위해서 세계 곳곳에 가장 뛰어난 분들이 오셨고 또 논의해주고 또 실천하기 위해 애쓰시는 모습에 대한민국 국회의원으로서 너무너무 감사하다고 인사드립니다. Thank you. Thank you very much. 그리고 오늘 이 자리에는 시민단체 여러분들이 오셨습니다. 한반도의 최남단인 제주도에서, 광주에서, 서울에서, 경기도에서, 대구에서, 경주에서 대한민국의 시민단체 대표들이 같이 오셨습니다. 정치인들이 일해라. 그런데 우리가 또 현장에서 실천하마라고 하는 뜻을 저희들에게 보여주며 또 이곳까지 와서 통일을 위한 작업을 하고 있습니다. 그분들께 대한민국 국회의원으로서 감사하다 또 인사 말씀 드리겠습니다. 고맙습니다. 이곳은 세계가 주목하는 공간, 미국, 그 중에서도 워싱턴입니다. 오늘 이 자리에 대한민국 국회의원 서영교만 왔느냐? 그렇지가 않습니다. 오늘 이 자리에는 대한민국을 좌우지하는 분들이 같이 와 계십니다. 그분들을 제가 소개해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 현재 문재인 정부의 대통령 후보 시절 원내대표셨던 5선의 독립 영웅들의 후손 이종걸 의원님이 와 계십니다. 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 일어나서 인사 부탁드립니다. 그리고 이 자리에는 대한민국 국회에서 가장 중요한 곳을 맡았던 법사위의 위원장을 하셨던 우리 이상민 4선 의원 와 계십니다. 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 의원님 손 한번 흔들어 주십시오. 집권 여당입니다. 또 이 자리에는 4선 의원의 아주 중요한 역할을 하고 계시는 오재세 의원님 와 계십니다. 손 한번 흔들어 주시고 박수 한번 부탁드리겠습니다. 다 문재인 정부를 만들어낸 역군들이십니다. 실세라고 생각하시면 됩니다. 그러면 대한민국은 문재인 정부와 문재인 정부를 만든 사람들만 있는가? 그렇지 않습니다. 자유한국당 의원님들이 같이 와 계십니다. 간혹 언론을 통해 대한민국은 정치인들끼리 상호 부딪히는 모습이 자주 나와서 혹시 내부 분란이 많을까라고 생각하는데 전혀 그렇지 않다라고 하는 걸 보여드리겠습니다. 오늘 이 자리에 대한민국 세계 최고를 달리는 정보통신위원장 신상진 의원님도 와 계시다는 것을 소개해드리겠습니다. 그리고 대한민국의 1년 예산을 다루는 핵심 인물 우리 박찬우 의원님도 자유한국당이시지만 와 계시다는 걸 소개해 올리겠습니다. 제가 왜 이 말씀을 드릴까요? 저도 준비한 원고가 있고 번역문이 있습니다. 그렇지만 짧은 시간 여러분께 확실하게 인상을 남기기 위해서입니다. 세계에서 유일한 분단국 한반도, 5,000년 역사를 자랑하는 한민족으로 구성된 나라입니다. 그런데 그 한반도가 남과 북으로 분단되어서 수십 년이 흘렀습니다. 이 문제를 해결하기 위해서 대한민국의 여야 국회의원은 함께 머리를 맞대고 또 함께 실천하면서 하나가 되는 모습으로 오늘 여러분이 마련한 자리에 왔다라고 하는 말씀을 드리기 위해서입니다. 저희를 믿어주십시오. 그러면 한반도의 상황을 말씀드리겠습니다. 한반도에는 문재인 정부가 들어선 지 이제 6개월 정도밖에 되지 않았습니다. 그런데 그 사이에 김정은이 미사일을 10번을 쏘고 6차 핵실험을 성공시켜버렸습니다. 긴장 그 자체입니다. 대화를 통해서 평화적 통일을 만들어 나가야 하는 저희들의 과제에 장애물이 생겼습니다. 미사일을 쏘고 핵실험을 성공했는데 대화하자라고만 할 수 있는 상황은 아니었습니다. 그래서 저희에게 필요한 것은 무력 도발하면 아무도 못 살아. 그래서 다시 우리가 얼마나 군사적으로 강력한지 보여주겠어 라고 하면서 한미 공조를 더욱더 굳건히 했습니다. 사람들은 이야기했습니다. 문재인 정부가 들어서면서 혹시 주한미군 철수하는 거 아니야? 문재인 정부가 들어서면서 혹시 코리아 패싱 있는 거 아니야? 문재인 정부가 들어서면서 혹시 한미 공조가 깨지는 건 아니야? 라고 이야기했습니다. 여러분, 몇 개월 지나지 않았지만 한미 공조 더 단단히 해진 것 보셨습니까? 역사상 처음으로 트럼프 미 대통령이 한국 국회에 와서 연설을 했습니다. 대한민국 국민들은 약간 긴장했습니다. 혹시 우리 보고 방위분담금 더 내라고 이야기하지 않을까? 그런데 트럼프 대통령은 대한민국이 얼마나 위대한 나라인지를 이야기하고 북한의 인권과 북한이 얼마나 무력적 도발을 하면 한미 공조가 가만히 있지 않겠다라고 하는 모습을 확실히 보여줬습니다. 그래서 그러는 와중에 북한은 미사일 쏘던 것을 중단했습니다. 알고 계시죠? 예. 이제 북한을 압박하고 제재하고 통일을 이끌어내는 방법은 우리가 군사적으로 압도적이다라고 하는 것을 보여줘야 합니다. 1초, 2초, 3초, 4초 미사일이 쏘아 올려집니다. 그 미사일을 발견하고 5분 내에 요격해서 터뜨리지 않으면 세계는, 한반도는 전쟁의 위기가 될지 모릅니다. 그래서 저는 국방위원으로서 철저한 국방력을 완수하기 위해 준비를 하고 있습니다. 미국의 스텔스기 F-35가 상시 순환 배치되기도 하고 죽음의 백조 B-1B가 날아오기도 합니다. 강력한 군사력을 대한민국 문재인 정부가 준비하고 있다 말씀드립니다. 그러나 미사일이 하나라도 날아오면 세상은 끝입니다. 그래서 우리는 대화를 해야 합니다. 그리고 그들에게 대화의 장으로 나오게 만들어내는 것이 우리들의 임무다 이렇게 생각합니다. 그래서 오늘 저에게 해야 할 발언 중에 중요한 것은 미국, 일본, 중국, 러시아, 그리고 오늘 여기 와 계신 몽골, 그리고 유럽, 세계 곳곳에 국제적인 공조가 필요하다라고 하는 말씀을 드립니다. 여러분, 사드 배치 때문에 한중 관계가 얼어붙었던 거 기억하시지요? 그런데 지금 한중 관계는 어떻게 되고 있습니까? 해빙입니다. 왜요? 대화를 하고 소통했더니 아 그렇군요 라며 정리되고 한국의 K-팝 스타들이 중국으로 갈 준비들을 하고 열려있기 시작했습니다. 경제적인 교류가 만들어지고 중국은 대북 관련 압박을 하겠다라는 말을 하기 시작했습니다. 이 성과는 무엇일까요? 문재인 정부가 통일을 위해 노력하는구나, 세계적 평화를 위해 노력하는구나 라고 하는 것을 중국도 알게 된 것입니다. 한미 공조가 어려울 줄 알았는데 트럼프 대통령은 왜 우리에게 좋은 연설을 하고 방위분담금 얘기를 겉으로 드러내지 않았을까요? 그것도 마찬가지로 문재인 정부가 트럼프 대통령과 긴밀한 대화를 하고 논의하는 과정을 통해서 서로 이해하고 소통하면서 친구 관계가 된 것입니다. EU의 동독에 러시아가 핵을 배치했습니다. 세계가 발칵 뒤집혔던 때가 있습니다. 그러나 독일은 끝내 동방 정책에 집중하면서 통일을 이뤄냈습니다. 지금 동독과 서독의 통일의 지도자는 누굽니까? 메르켈입니다. 독일이 통일이 됐는데 혹시 서독이 동독에게 주도권을 빼앗기면 어떡하나라고 걱정을 했을 수 있습니다. 그렇지만 지금 독일의 지도자는 누굽니까? 동독 출신의 메르켈입니다. 동독 출신의 메르켈을 유럽은 지도자로 또 인정하고 있습니다. 세계의 많은 국가들이 동독 출신의 메르켈이 균형과 경제 살리기를 해낼 것이라 믿어주고 있습니다. 이제 남북 문제도 대화하고 주도하고 그리고 그들을 끌어내므로써 가능하다. 그렇다면 정부는 당분간은 압박과 제재를 해야 합니다. 그런데 그들의 뚝을 무너뜨리는 사람은 바로 대한민국의 천만의 촛불이 세상을 바꾸듯이 오늘 여기 계신 통일천사 여러분과 여기 계신 국제적인 지도자 여러분들의 도움이 대한민국의 통일, 북한의 김정은의 담벼락을 무너뜨리는 북한 민중들의 자세다라고 생각을 합니다. 존경하고 사랑하는 국제 지도자 여러분, 그리고 통일천사 여러분, 한 나그네가 두꺼운 외투를 입고 목도리를 두들고 모자를 쓰고 길을 가고 있었습니다. 태양이 바람과 내기를 했습니다. 우리 누가 저 나그네 모자와 목도리와 외투를 벗겨볼까? 바람이 이야기했습니다. 내가 하지! 라며 쌩쌩 바람을 불었습니다. 그러자 그 나그네는 옷깃을 여미고 목도리를 꽁꽁 동여매고 모자가 날아갈세라 붙들었습니다. 바람은 나그네의 외투를 벗기지 못했습니다. 그런데 태양이 이제 내가 해볼게. 햇빛을 쨍쨍 내리쬐자 그 나그네는 모자를 벗고 목도리를 풀고 웃도리를 벗었습니다. 무장이 해제되었습니다. 우리는 바람과 태양 둘 다 필요한 시기입니다. 압박과 제재, 그러면서도 태양의 햇볕을 통해서 그들을 무장 해제시켜내는 것, 두 가지 역할을 같이 함으로써 세계 유일의 분단국 한반도는 통일이 되어야 합니다. 그 과정에서 저희가 애쓰겠습니다. 너희들은 애쓰지 않고 다른 사람 보고 도와달라고만 하지 마. 맞습니다. 저희 대한민국의 문재인 정부가, 그리고 오늘 여기 오신 집권 여당의 정치인 그리고 야당의 정치인 하나 돼서 노력하겠습니다. 그리고 현장에서 국민이 움직여 주실 것입니다. 국제적인 지도자 여러분, 다시 한번 감사의 말씀을 드리면서 대한민국에서 전쟁이 일어나지 않게 통일이 이루어질 수 있도록 도와주십시오. 여러분께 항상 감사드리는 마음으로 최선을 다하겠습니다. 고맙습니다.
감사합니다, Honorable So. Dr. Joseph Bosco is Senior Fellow with the Institute for Korean-American Studies and a former China Director at the U.S. Department of Defense. He is also a non-resident Senior Associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, and a member of GPF's International Advisory Council for Korean Unification. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, David. Dr. Preston Moon, in his powerful keynote address yesterday, and also in his book, The Korean Dream, said that the North Korean reunification is fundamentally a moral issue. He also said denuclearization is linked to reunification, which makes that a moral issue as well. I agree. Earlier this year, Secretary Rex Tillerson's State Department issued its annual human rights report, which indicted North Korea as one of the world's worst and cruelest regimes. As Greg Scarlato's work has shown, its slave labor camps match the horrors of Nazi death camps and Soviet gulags in the last century. In his speech before the South Korean National Assembly last week, President Trump quoted a person who escaped from the North. The man said, "When I think about it now, I was not a human being. I was more like an animal. Only after leaving North Korea did I realize what life was supposed to be." The treatment of the North Korean people by 3 generations of the Kim regime can be fully expressed in one word: dehumanization. Yet within a few weeks of the State Department's scathing human rights report, Secretary Tillerson told the United Nations Security Council, "America's goal is not regime change." In a subsequent press conference, the Secretary expanded on his message to Pyongyang and Beijing. He said, quote, "We do not seek a regime change. We do not seek the collapse of the regime. We do not seek an accelerated reunification of the peninsula. We do not seek an excuse to send our military north of the 38th parallel. And we're trying to convey that to the North Koreans. We are not your enemy. We're not your threat." Tillerson also said, "Since 1995, the U.S. has provided $1.3 billion in aid to North Korea, and we look forward to resuming our contributions once the country dismantles its weapons programs." What does this apparent contradiction mean? How can the United States condemn the North Korean regime as perhaps the worst humanitarian nightmare on earth, while at the same time pledging to keep it in power indefinitely and even provide further economic subsidies? The answer lies in the last few words of Tillerson's offer. Future contributions would come only after North Korea dismantles its nuclear programs. In other words, the United States, the world's leading exponent of universal values and human rights, is saying that its first priority is denuclearization. It is willing to leave that horrendous regime in place in order to avoid the alternative of another war on the Korean Peninsula. That is not an immoral calculation when we consider that such a war quite possibly involving nuclear weapons, would mean the deaths of hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of Koreans, North and South, and thousands of Americans. But, some ask, since war in the Korean Peninsula and in the region would be such a terrible outcome, why is the Trump administration threatening war in order to eliminate North Korea's nuclear weapons program? Why not just continue to live with the threat as previous administrations have done for the last 3 decades? Why not accept the freeze-for-freeze proposals put forward by China and Russia? North Korea stops building or testing nuclear weapons and missiles, and South Korea and the United States end their joint military exercises. Wouldn't that avoid another Korean War? The answer has 3 parts. First, North Korea's nuclear and missile programs are completely illegal, blatant violations of international non-proliferation treaties and UN Security Council resolutions. U.S. ROK exercises, on the other hand, are entirely legitimate activities, conducted routinely by militaries around the world. It would be dangerously foolhardy to accept an ongoing North Korean nuclear and missile capability, even if frozen, while surrendering a normal, legal international practice. The potential North Korean aggression would still be there, but the U.S. ROK defensive capability would be diminished. Second, given Pyongyang's consistent record of cheating on international commitments, it would be difficult at best to confirm its compliance with a freeze agreement. How would we know with any confidence what the baseline is? Rather than arguing about how many nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles North Korea had to begin with and whether they're being added over time, getting to 0 and remaining there is far easier to understand and to verify. As for the morality of risking war to get rid of North Korea's nuclear weapons, the policies of negotiations, sanctions, and relying on China to restrain its ally have all clearly failed. The threat from the Kim regime has grown exponentially, as has the risk of war itself. The nuclear canister can no longer be kicked down the road. As Secretary Tillerson and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley have both said, there is no more road. The international community, led by the United States, must act. China must compel Pyongyang either to give up nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs or to give up power. And China has the economic and diplomatic clout to make that happen. We are often told Kim Jong-un may be dangerous and erratic, but he is not suicidal. Well, then, faced with a credible ultimatum from China, along with security guarantees and economic aid, he would have to choose regime survival. The West must demand that Beijing present Pyongyang with an offer it cannot refuse. Finally, considering North Korea's ongoing state of aggression against South Korea and its declared intention to reunify the peninsula under Kim's totalitarian rule, the danger of an imminent outbreak of war is ever present, even without any action by the West. Seen by North Korean leaders as weakness, which invites strategic miscalculation and military adventurism, is how experts have described that policy. It would be better to lance that boil now and compel a rollback of North Korea's nuclear and missile capabilities before the danger becomes even greater. Once peaceful denuclearization is accomplished, there will be opportunity for creative negotiations with Beijing and Pyongyang to accelerate the rehumanizing of the North Korean people that we should be pushing for simultaneously. Much of that can be achieved without total regime change, though not without some change in the regime's behavior. However, if Pyongyang precipitates actual conflict with the West by further provocations that cross the red lines of the United States, South Korea, and Japan, then the moral calculation changes. There are 3 scenarios to consider. The first is a so-called surgical strike or preemptive prevention operation. It would commit to Pyongyang and Beijing, as Secretary Tillerson has done, that we do not intend to overthrow the Kim regime or to occupy North Korea unless it retaliates. If the Communist allies accept that assurance, and there is no retaliation against Seoul or the U.S., either by nuclear or conventional means, then there could be discussion of ending sanctions and resuming the flow of economic aid that Tillerson mentioned. There would have to be verifiable assurances that the aid would be used to improve the lives of North Korean citizens and not to enrich the Kim regime, its elite supporters, or the military. The second scenario would occur if Pyongyang does retaliate against South Korea or the United States, but China stays out of the conflict. That would mean war between North Korea and the West. In those circumstances, the Trump administration is unlikely to repeat the error of the Korean War and allow the aggressor regime to remain in power. Washington would have to work with Beijing to reunify the Korean Peninsula under a democratic government not hostile to either China or the West. If China does intervene, which is the third and most catastrophic scenario, it would mean war between the United States and its allies against North Korea and China. It would be a replay of the First Korean War, but with higher costs for all and devastating consequences for North Korea and China. It would be the merciful end of the Pyongyang regime and reunification under a democratic Korean government that would not soon forget Beijing's second aggression against South Korea. Such a war would destroy all the economic gains China has made over the past 4 decades and would endanger the very survivability of Communist Party rule in China. That is why it is the least likely scenario. Let us hope that the Trump administration can avoid all 3 conflict scenarios, but that will depend largely on China. Denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is the most urgent security need. Reunification of all the Korean people is the ultimate goal. The sooner the better. Both are moral imperatives. But so is the rehumanization of the North Korean people, and that is something the international community can do without waiting for the other goals to be met. It is happening now, but at a very low level. Much more needs to be done to get information and messages of moral support to the North Korean people. During the Cold War, Václav Havel, Nathan Sharansky, and Lech Walesa all said that the messages they heard from the Voice of America and Radio Free Europe bolstered their spirits because they knew the outside world had not forgotten them. Can the North Korean people today say they have not been forgotten? From what we heard from Mr. Enkhsaikhan yesterday, the South Korean people themselves could play a much greater role. It seems they need as much information about their countrymen in the North as the North Korean people need about life in the South. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bosco. Our next speaker is Dr. Tarja Cronberg, a distinguished fellow at the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. She's a former member of the Finland Parliament, as well as a European Union Parliamentarian, where she chaired the Iran Committee on denuclearization strategies. I was pleased to hear her keen sights in Mongolia at a forum that Ambassador Enkhsaikhan invited us to, the Blue Banner Conference. She brings keen insight on both denuclearization strategies and the potential of EU nations supporting the international One Korea campaign. Welcome, Dr. Cronberg.
Thank you. I'm really very excited to be here. I think as someone who works with nuclear weapons, nuclear programs, and nuclear disarmament, I think the Korean unification is a very, very important challenge. And like it was said here, unification is related to denuclearization. I think it would be impossible to think that the international community would accept a new nuclear country in the world after unification. So we have to try to think of models on how to exit the nuclear issue. Ambassador Enkhsaikhan said that the nuclear issue should not hold hostage other things that are important in unification. And I think this comment actually leads to the conclusion that denuclearization should take place before unification, or, of course, at least at the time of unification. There are models in the world of how to exit nuclear weapons, nuclear weapon programs, and I think I'm going to be the sunshine actor here, trying to provide some of the constructive examples of how has the world before dealt with similar issues, and what are the examples, what are the experiences. In 10 minutes, of course, it's not possible to go through them very detailed, but I will just, the 4 models you see here, the Iran model, the South African model, the Kazakhstan-Ukraine model, which actually is a Soviet Union collapse model, and then the question of nuclear weapon-free zones, particularly in the case of Latin America, where Brazil and Argentina both abolished their nuclear programs. So just a few comments on each of these. 10 minutes are not so long, so please, if you want to have some more substance on the things, you can look at the paper. I want to conclude on what I think this could mean in the Korean Peninsula case, so I will use my time on that. But some of the characteristics are important. First of all, the Iran model. It is the only example in the world where actually diplomatic negotiations led to an agreement where a country, in this case Iran, renounces its nuclear program. There's the Iran deal, the JCPOA as it's called, includes limitations on the Iranian nuclear program so that Iran will not be able to be on the path to have access to nuclear weapons. And after the agreement, there's an agreement, Iran is committed to be a non-nuclear member of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And when you hear these discussions about the sunset clauses of this agreement, it is really, if you criticize the sunset clauses, it's really a criticism of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, because this treaty will be irresponsible. Iran has to take the most strongest verification regimes, and so in this way, the Iran model actually, with external negotiations, I think this is the only case where a country has given in for external pressure and diplomatic pressure, agreed to close the path to nuclear weapons. And Europe, the European Union, during the 12 years of negotiation, played a very important role. And I would like to relate this to the Korean question. The European Union had sort of a neutral role. It could frame the negotiations in a way that the two hostile parties, Iran and the US, could meet, and during 2 years of bilateral negotiations, actually achieve the deal. So there is this kind of balance that is needed in the negotiations. The second example is South Africa. South Africa in the 70s had nuclear weapons. The Soviet Union influence in Africa increased, and they thought this was necessary for their deterrence. And actually, in 1989, the government decided itself, due to external changes balanced with internal changes, to renounce nuclear weapons and abolish their nuclear programs and dismantle the facilities, and the International Atomic Energy Agency was the actor who actually did this. So South African model was actually an internal model. There was problems with the apartheid, there were problems, the Cuban forces left Africa, Soviet Union collapsed, and in this new situation the country decided it did not need nuclear weapons any longer. I will just have to take my glass here. The third model, which led to the third and fourth biggest nuclear weapon countries to abolish their nuclear weapons, was the collapse of the Soviet Union. Kazakhstan, 1991, already declared itself as nuclear weapon-free, and has become the sort of front runner in the nuclear weapon-free world concept. Ukraine had a more complicated process and also has the problem today that when Ukraine renounced its nuclear weapons, they were moved to, in both cases, both in Kazakhstan and in Ukraine, the nuclear weapons were moved to Russia. And at that time, there was a Budapest memorandum which actually guaranteed Ukraine that its borders would not be changed because it transferred its nuclear weapons to another country. And this was, of course, then broken by the Crimea occupation. The fourth model, which I think we should be really attentive on, is the question of nuclear weapon-free zones. These are zones, according to the UN. The UN has criteria for this. These are countries that in a region decide not to develop, transport, and have and use nuclear weapons. And it's the initiative of the countries. It's really a civil society initiated process in many, many cases. Latin America was the first one. It was already in the 70s that it was agreed that Latin America, inclusive the Caribbean, would be a nuclear weapon-free zone. And Brazil and Argentina, that both had nuclear weapon programs, actually in the beginning of the 90s, when the military dictatorships collapsed, actually decided that they didn't need these parallel programs, they didn't need to threaten each other, and decided to join the nuclear weapon-free zone in Latin America. And I think in this case is very important, since they are now in many institutions, and I think in the public discussion also the discussion of the Northeast Asia nuclear weapon-free zone. Would there be possibility of creating a 3+3 zone which would include North Korea, Republic of Korea, and Japan, and they would be non-nuclear nations, not even nuclear umbrella nations, and the three others, United States, China, and Russia, would actually agree security guarantees so they would not attack or threaten with attack any of the countries involved. So my last question here is then the question of unification. Of course, denuclearization is the goal of the unification process. And the problem is, how do you achieve this goal? I mean, there were already these dark forecasts about what kind of wars might take place. And my question is, what could be the peaceful process where this could be achieved? The first phase would be the freeze. You have to freeze the testing of nuclear weapons, you have to freeze the development of nuclear weapons. And for this freeze to take place, you of course need some incentives from the other side, from this case from the US, but also you need some other things, and this is where the Iran case becomes very interesting, because one of the things that was in the Iran case was that for 12 years the EU provided a table. There was always a table. Even if the negotiations didn't proceed, there was always a place where you could meet, you could discuss the situation, you could understand each other's arguments. So the existence of a table is very, very important. And when you talk about North Korea coming to the table, I always have to ask, where is the table? There is no table. The second question is the question of regime change. Already Joe Bosco here indicated that the US is accepting that there will be no regime change. But no, this was the case also in Iran. When there was a threat of regime change from the United States, the negotiation didn't proceed. When the threat was removed by the Obama administration, then negotiations could take place. And the third thing which is important in this discussion of freeze is the question of preconditions. If you have preconditions, like in the Iran case, of suspending all enrichment, even if it's allowed according to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, then of course countries cannot show weakness. They cannot go into a negotiation where actually the precondition gives the end result. The same applies to the Korean Peninsula. You cannot give up your nuclear weapons as a precondition for any negotiations. Why would you do this and show the weakness? If I think politically in any country this would be very, very difficult. But it is important that the first step be taken. The next step is the question of dismantling of the weapons. And this is only possible in an atmosphere of confidence building. If unification or the prospect of unification, the civil societies in both countries and also in the surrounding countries could provide an environment where actually the countries feel that they don't need these nuclear weapons, whether umbrella or weapons, then the environment would be very favorable for solving the problem. And in this case, I think the nuclear weapon-free zone in the Northeast Asia could be a solution. I think it has some very great advantages. It's not focusing on North Korea alone. It's focusing on the three countries, Japan, Republic of Korea, and North Korea. It will remove the nuclear threats in the region, and it would provide a regional aspect where countries could agree regionally, and also the verification of these nuclear weapon-free zones is a regional activity. And then, of course, this would need security guarantees from Russia, China, and the United States. And I think our Mongolian friend has examples of how difficult it is to get these guarantees, even in cases where Mongolia did not have nuclear weapons, wanted to become a nuclear weapon-free zone. But this must be the trade-off, this must be the cost-benefit analysis also for these three countries. So my end point here is that it's important to try to create, if you want to solve this peacefully, it's important to try to create a situation where countries don't need nuclear weapons, where the need for nuclear weapons is not there. And I think all the exit models I have tried to indicate to you prove this, that in each case, suddenly, as a result of some social transformation, in Iran case as a result of combination of pressure and diplomatic solutions, there was the accept that we don't need nuclear weapons. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cronberg, for that delightful and insightful presentation on a number of models and practical strategies, and certainly for Northeast Asia proposing new models and arrangements that are post-Cold War framework. Our final panelist is Anthony Kim, Deputy Chief of Staff and Editor of the Index of Economic Freedom at the Heritage Foundation in Washington. Mr. Kim is one of the bright new generation lights at Heritage and in our countries, and we're grateful to have his wisdom on these issues together with Dr. Fulner as a strategic leader and friend in the cause of Korean unification. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you, David, so much, and I'm truly honored to be here with you today. Thanks for giving me your precious 10 minutes, and I'll try to respect your 10 minutes as maximum capacity I can exercise. I want to thank Jim Flynn, the president of Global Peace Foundation. I think your commitment to this issue is well known. We truly appreciate it. And people are policies. Policies we talk about today and in coming days. We cannot formulate and advance those policies without people. That means you. So nobody said this issue of unification, North Korea crisis, however you call it, it's not going to be one straight linear line. It's a very complicated process, ups and downs, twists, unexpected turns here and there. But the bottom line is, this is a journey we are doing together. And I want to remind you, this is a continuing journey we're going to do in coming months and years. I want to recognize a few guests here. Mr. Kenneth Bae, I never met you before. You are wearing beautiful blue suit, very elegant. I like the color blue. To me, in my color code, blue is freedom and liberty. I cannot imagine things that you had to go through. You have certainly very unique experience. I think no one else in this volume had a experience you had gone through. So your presence means a lot to me personally, and I hope to many others in this room. And also, this is a collective process, as we know. So I really want to say, as we are doing this kind of forums in Washington and Seoul, there are many key stakeholders and players. And one of the people who came to my mind is a Dr. Bak Se-il. I don't know how many of you know him, but he is the founder of the Korea's Hansan Foundation. I know through my previous engagement with the GPF, he was a critical pillar of this kind of dialogue and everything. And I see Mr. Lee Sang-baek, who was basically the brain and right-hand man of Dr. Park. Dr. Park passed away 2 years ago, and I just want to recognize his vision and everything. And here, we have a special guest from the National Assembly delegation. I hope you're enjoying your visit to Washington, D.C. And I understand that thanks to Dr. William Parker, you had a very special occasion and meetings yesterday with the National Security Council. I hope that inspired you, and hopefully you can do more things as you go back to Seoul. And Honorable Sir, we enjoyed your compassionate speech. I think that's the collective voice from the National Assembly. We certainly hope that you carry on and follow through your pledge you just made today with us. The Heritage Foundation, we have a vision statement. The Heritage Foundation is about building an America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, civil society flourish. Let's take one step back. Think about these 4 words: freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society. They are not unrelated values and principles. We all need these principles if we want to achieve what we want to do here. I think Korea is eager to, and politicians and civil society members, we are all eager to build a Korea, unified Korea, where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourish. So that's why we are here today. I mean, my role, I don't have all the solutions. I don't have any single solution to North Korean crisis. But I do know why we are here today, this morning. And, this session's title is that Unification and Post-Cold War Era Framework. Let me remind you of the session title here. Of course, as David alluded earlier, divided Korea has been the product of Cold War. But unified Korea, hopefully, it shouldn't be and will not be the product of Cold War. I really mean it. This is a new opportunity. I was really inspired and encouraged by Dr. Parker's speech yesterday. I hope if you didn't hear that yesterday, you should read it. This is opportunity. The opportunity that perhaps you've been waiting for. President Trump, nobody expected. I don't know how many of you are excited about his campaign last year. I think everybody was assuming it'll be the other side. So basically, last year, things that shouldn't have happened, couldn't have happened, wouldn't have happened, happened. I mean, you can say Brexit. You can say the election of Trump. And in Korea, what happened? You did something we never seen before in a peaceful, dynamic way. This is the setting we are in today. The Cold War framework will not be changed overnight, but it can be amendable as we work together. So in Korea last year, I think the one big message you sent out to the world is that Korea is vibrant, functioning democracy. You basically said, we cannot tolerate this kind of political corrupted exercise. We want to change, and you brought in change. Well done, really. Very, very, very proud achievement you have made. Now let's fast forward. November 15th, today is 15th, 2017. So 2017 is very unique because we now have the President Trump in White House, and we had the election of South Korea's new president. I don't think we have this kind of, same year, new presidents, two new presidents in Washington and Seoul in a single year. This is new. So this is kind of get to know process we are in too. I think Kim Jong-un in North Korea, he's very much curious about what's happening too, because I'm sure he was betting on the other side as well. So my point is that this is a completely new setting that's been given to us, and we should exercise this opportunity as much as we can. How? That's the question we have to answer. That's why we are here together to talk about the issue, not to find solution, but to think through what we can do as a group. So, if I may, I want to suggest a few things here, maybe one single thing. I see Dr. Ryu. I think he said yesterday something like, vision without action is daydreaming. And action without vision is kind of chaos. We need both vision and action. So vision, if I may, we want to create a unified Korea where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, civil society flourish. If that's agreeable vision, I think we should work together. I think time to act is now, not tomorrow or maybe next year. I'll think about what I can do, let's see. But this is time we should act together. Now, this is not a single bullet issue, so we're going to get together again and again as we go. But I just want to say, not because I'm working at the Heritage Foundation. I consider myself as a product of the Heritage Foundation, by the way. But Heritage Foundation, we say, without heritage, every generation starts over. I want you to think about that. Without heritage, not Heritage Foundation, without heritage, every generation starts over. Korea is very well known for lots of heritage that Korean people should be proud of. I mean, to me, it could be this, to you, it could be that. But one thing that I can tell you about is the heritage of, if I may borrow Dr. Moon's book, Enkhsaikhan. So many values and principles I think Korea has inherited over the past years and years. And this is time to exercise that values and principles and together. And like I said, people are policies, and that's why we are here today. Of course, we can talk about many policy options, strategic engagement, what should be done. But I think what's happening in front of us is a true opportunity. President Trump had such a wonderful visit and very constructive visit to Asia. It's an opportunity once again. And the fact that we are here in Washington today, I think that's really, really a positive and constructive step we are taking. So I truly believe this is time to work together, act together, share our views and perspectives. Our journey, like I said earlier, it shouldn't be about dividing and subtracting. Our journey is something very constructive and forward-looking. So I suggest whatever policy discussions and civil society engagement we should try to do, multiply and add. And I believe that's our mission, and I think that we are ready to do so. So I really appreciate your attention to me. If you have any questions, of course, we'll be happy to answer that. Thank you very much.
Nobody can be a rapporteur and a vision summarizer better than Anthony Kim. Let's give him another round of applause for capturing the historic moment of timing of the new Moon-Trump administration, and most of all for you, all being here today. Forgive us, every one of you is a VIP. There's no one greater or smaller than the rest. But I did want to acknowledge Ye-Ching Lee with the International Young Leaders Assembly and founder of the China Society as well. He gathers young people around the world are really the next wave of this, and GPF is very committed in that arena. I also want to recognize the young media. We're all young, right? But we have a number of journalists here from Korea. Could you stand, the media that are here today who are capturing this story? Let's give them a round of applause. I know you're hiding out there somewhere. We have, I think, about 10 journalists here. And I'd like to also acknowledge Ms. Yusuk and your friends. We introduced already the AKU delegation, but we have diaspora here in America. Yusuk, if you could stand, and other members of NUAC and the Korean-American Association here. Let's recognize Haepin Im. Ms. Haepin Im, you're part of that group. Korean Churches for Community Development, NUAC, the Korean diaspora, and JU, you're certainly their leader here. Thank you. Along with AKU, again, thank you, Anthony, for summarizing this great gathering here at home and abroad of the Korean community and your friends with AKU launching the One Korea International Campaign. To give us our closing marching orders, we've run out of time, but we want to continue the discussion. You'll be able to talk with the speakers at lunch today. We've prepared a special room in the rotunda of this very august Reagan building. So let us continue with questions, answers, and dialogue through lunch today before our closing session. And to announce the way forward on that, please welcome Elizabeth Elliott. I'd like to also acknowledge her as President Jim Flynn's executive assistant that has done so much in preparing this program as well. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, David. And thanks to all of our speakers. That was wonderful. What a great way to start day 2 of our International Forum on One Korea. Thanks to everyone for being here. So for lunch, sponsored by East West Institute, Global Peace Foundation, Action for Korea United, and the One Korea Foundation, we'd like to ask you all to please proceed to the elevators, then to the ground floor, and follow the signs to the rotunda. And you'll enjoy lunch there. And we have some staff out there to help you along. Thank you again very much. Enjoy lunch.
Thank you. We're adjourned.